Welcome to the Past People, where I will talk about the people of the past. The women who gave birth for Hitler. In 1936, Nazi supporter and school graduate Hildegard Trutz was recruited as one of Germany's racially pure women, chosen to have sex with SS officers in the hope of producing an Aryan child. At the age of 18, when she had finished school, a BDM leader suggested that, if you don't know what to do, why not give the Führer a child? Germany is in dire need of descendants of a valuable race. Trutz did not know at the time that a state-sponsored program was being developed to ensure that more Aryan children with blonde hair and blue eyes were born. Only women that could prove that they were racially pure as far back as 3 generations were chosen to reproduce with SS officers. Trutz initially underwent a series of medical tests and investigations into her past to rule out traces of Jewish blood. Once she had been cleared as being racially pure, she was able to pick an officer. This is when she was escorted to an old castle in Bavaria alongside another 14 girls, all with false names. The castle was one of luxury, and the women and children were fed well, when other parts of the country were starving. They were waited on by servants like royalty. An SS teacher had to declare that there was no case of hereditary disease or dysomnia in the family. The young women were strangely respected enough to be pre-warned that they would have to give up their rights to their children when they were born. Many women wanted to do their bit for their leader and their country, so they agreed. Once initiated, Trutz and the other girls met the SS officers, whom they would procreate with, despite not knowing their names, to ensure anonymity. Trutz was impressed by them. They were all tall and strong, with blue eyes and blonde hair. The women did get to know the officers for a week beforehand, and they often watched movies and played games together. The women reported that when we chose our partner, we had to wait until the 10th day from the beginning of the last menstruation. Another examination was done on the women just before the officers joined them in their rooms, multiple times during their fertile period. Trutz did become pregnant from the first attempt, and she was moved to a maternity home for 9 months. When asked about the birth, she said, "It was not an easy birth, for no good German woman would think of having any artificial aids, such as injections to deaden the pain, like they had in degenerate Western democracies." She was allowed to breastfeed her baby for 2 weeks before he was moved to an adopted home. She was never to see her child or father of her child ever again. She went on to marry one of the young officers, so her desire to produce more children for the Lebensborn regime was not possible. Her husband was not excited at the prospect of his wife taking part in the regime. Lebensborn translates to wellspring of life or fountain of life. The Lebensborn project was founded by Heinrich Himmler on December 12, 1935. He was concerned by the decreasing birth rate, and his goal was to increase the number of Aryan Germans by encouraging SS soldiers to breed with Aryan women. Women who were deemed as being racially pure could give birth in secret out of wedlock for the country. Their children would go on to have a top education and would be placed with a prestigious family. But this was only once the mother and father had passed racial purity tests that dated back at least 3 generations. Only 40% of the women who applied were accepted onto the Lebensborn Programme. The women were taken to maternity homes where they would stay in comfort until the babies were born. The homes were filled with furnishings looted from the homes of Jews. There were homes all over Europe, 10 homes in Germany, 9 in Norway, 2 in Austria, 1 in Belgium, Holland, France, Luxembourg and Denmark. Himmler took a keen interest in the women, the homes, and especially the babies born on the 7th of October, his birthday. Thousands of German lives were being lost in the war, and Himmler was beginning to panic that he could not keep up with demand. He ordered soldiers to father as many children as possible, which encouraged illegitimate children in the country, which went against most people's moral compass. His panic also drove him to welcome non-German mothers, who could then have their children in safety and private. Although the program treated the women and the babies well, a dark side of the project was the kidnapping of racially good children from their parents' arms in eastern countries, as well as many orphans who were blonde with blue or green eyes. These children were taken to the Lebensborn centres to be germanised, which included forcing them to forget their parents. Children that refused to cooperate were beaten, and if they continued to rebel, they would be taken to concentration camps and killed. Those aged 2 to 6 were adopted by SS families and given German names. Those aged 6 to 12 were placed in boarding schools, and most of these children were from Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Norway, and others. Children that were kidnapped fell into 3 categories: those considered desirable to be included into German population, those who were acceptable, and the unwanted. The unwanted were taken to be killed at concentration camps, and evidence of kidnappings were destroyed in the final stages of the war, making it impossible to reunite the lost children. The numbers are unknown, but the Polish government claim around 10,000, but it is likely to be much higher at 20,000, with only 15% of those being returned to their parents. In 1946, it was estimated that more than 250,000 were kidnapped across Europe and sent by force to Germany. In some cases, the children refused to come back to their original family after growing attached to their adoptive parents. They were victims of the Nazi propaganda and believed that they were pure Germans. Those that did return were often too German to fit in. Once Hitler died on the 1st of May 1945, American, British and Russian troops marched into the homes, where the mothers had already fled. They found 300 children aged 6 months to 6 years in one centre alone. During the 12 years of the programme's existence, at least 20,000 babies were born in Germany and Norway, and the stigma of their birth remained, and many never learnt the truth of their conception. And leave your suggestions below, and I will endeavour to cover them. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories.